What School Could Be Academy, this great partnership, like we just mentioned, between What School Could Be and UK Center for Next Generation Leadership Academy. All right, we're actually going to skip the intros between Justin and I, since we were here last time and you were here last time. So I'm Ben, that's Justin. But we wanted to see, we wanted to sort of highlight what you all were saying, or other participants were saying from the first day. Some people in here today. A huge thank you to Justin and me for kicking off and leading us through the first day of Science of Learning early this morning. Great way to start the day. Excellent connecting with us and you all to dive deeper into the science of learning. An awesome conversation around the science of learning, deeper learning today. Excellent. And then Chris from China, we got people all over the world joining in. Learning systems, highly complex, dynamic, and interconnected. Giving a shout out to some of the resources we shared. This was my favorite, Rachel Albright. A misconception about deeper learning is that it's a nice thing to do if we get to it. Deeper learning is about designing learning experience that align with the science of learning. That means it's a must do. Like if I could just put that up above my desk, I think I'd be happy. So it was so well said, so well articulated. So as things resonate today, give those a tweet out. We'd love to see them, and we actually want to spread the word and get more people involved. So like we sort of mentioned earlier, this is sort of like our tribe. A lot of people sometimes feel like they're the only ones wanting to do this work in their setting, but come join all of us and all these amazing people that we're working with. All right, so as we mentioned real quick, this is a participatory format. You have as much knowledge and understanding as we do. So please, we're presenting you with research. It doesn't really matter if we can't translate that into the context in which we are working in. So please, we encourage you to share your experiences, your thoughts. We're super interested in your thinking because when you share your thinking as we share our thinking, it makes all of our thinking better. All right, so please, keep your cameras on. Just be mindful of what's taking place in the background. We are recording. Please keep it muted when not speaking, dogs and babies and all that stuff. And then as we said, we're going to be sharing a lot. So be respectful, supportive, use a yes and approach. So we're sharing a lot of resources and we feel very comfortable in, please share wide, share a lot and share often. And then this is the 2 of the 90-minute sessions. All right, so today's flow, we're actually going to say hi, and then we're going to do like a little theory into practice. We're going to do a breakout activity. We're going to share some examples of schools. We're going to do it, then we're going to jump into Padlet, do an activity. Then we're going to look at leading the change. How will we begin? And then we're going to look at next steps. And so a lot of today was built on the feedback we had received from the first session. So we asked people, so what do you want to do next? How do you want to spend your time? So we took that feedback and we actually folded it and helped shape today's session. So we hope it nails it for you. All right. All right. So let's jump on the Padlet. Do you have that link handy, Justin? And can you drop it in there in the chat? If not, I can. Zap that QR code with a phone or an iPad, whatever you have close by, or Justin, I think, is going to drop the link in the chat. The Padlet again today is going to be our back channel and sort of our anchor. We have a lot of resources. We're going to ask you to participate and add stuff on the Padlet. That Padlet will live on, hopefully, for a long time. And it will be open, so you can continually grab the resources. If you want to share it with other people, feel free. We'll also put today's recording on there, the deck from today, as well as Monday's on there as well. So everything all in one place. All right. So I guess I'll jump over to the Padlet because we have excuse me, an activity on there that we want you to participate in. So in the first column here, excuse me, you'll see our icebreaker for day 2. Oh, good. I see a bunch of people jumping on there. All right. So an easy one. What are you eating or drinking? All right. Or if you want to take it to the next level, share a picture or something special from your desk or workplace. Some of us have little trinkets or like little, almost like rabbit's feet, if you will. You have an inspirational poster, or maybe a picture of your family or your dog, or, maybe people have stuffed animals, take a picture of that and share that if you feel inclined, or just tell us what you're eating and drinking. So like right now I'm drinking a big bottle of water. So hot tea. So tea is one that we often find people get really into specific types of tea. Like I'm just like a Lipton, whatever's available. Some people are like, well, it has to be loose leaf tea and has to be prepared in a certain way and steeped for this amount of time, et cetera, et cetera. But for me, it's just tea or coffee. Diet Coke. Oh, you just stopped Diet Coke. All right, good. Cinnamon Crunch Latte. Oh my gosh. I don't even know what that is, but it sounds amazing. Hot cocoa. It's 40 degrees. It's 40 degrees here, but it's 40 degrees Celsius during the day, not Fahrenheit. Coffee is your morning. Yes. All right. Welcome to another hotel room, right? Water. Love it. Constant comment, hot tea. All right. Very good. Blood orange spice tea. Amazing. A protein ball with some water after my early run this morning. There you go. I love it. Random. Oh, for some reason the preview didn't load. Sorry about that. We got a portrait of a grad near the desk. That's amazing. I got hot coffee. Oh, look at this, Justin. We got donuts. I just had dinner and I'm like excited. This is making me hungry for some dessert.
Are you like,
all right, it is getting colder.
Donuts to Thailand. That's a downside of running these things globally. I would have brought donuts in had we been like hosting on site.
Yeah, surprise and delight. All right, excellent. Well, thanks everybody. I think we got everybody on the Padlet. Everybody's jumping on there, sharing what they want. Like we mentioned, these are our resources today. So we're going to have some activities for today. You're going to find those here. We're going to share some examples. We're going to find those here. Justin has some leadership for deeper learning, like his book here. We got next steps and provocation resources. We're actually going to ask you, we're going to provoke you, hopefully provoke some deep thinking and some inspirational and exciting thinking about what actually is going to take place next. All right. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Justin so we can dive into some of the day 2 content.
All right, awesome. Oh, there is Rachel. We'll have to, as Rachel gets in the room, we'll shout out the tweet just because, we spent some time on that.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so hey all, let's dive back in. Hey, Rachel Albright, you got love right out of the gate. So yes. Like just showing you that like front and center, we were featuring the great thoughts you had on Twitter, and we're going to circle back around to those exact thoughts in a few minutes. So just while you're here, giving a shout out. So as Ben and I concluded day 1, we asked you all to give us some feedback on what you hoped to see on to day 2. Sorry, I have too much going on this particular computer. I need 4 screens rather than this many screens. So this is what you generally said. The feedback fell across the 2 sessions into these 3 buckets. I want theory into practice. And so this is a representative Padlet statement. What are some ways that we can take this and make it happen from the seats that we have? Several folks said, I want to see it. I want to see examples. And then several folks also sort of went to this place of like, so how do we actually get to leading this change? So we'll try to bucket our work today into those 3 places. One of the theory into practice part is where we'll begin, which is good news for me, because I still want to share a little bit of research. I mean, it's the science of learning sprint. We have to like not lose that thread entirely. So as we get into that, I want you to, if you have the Padlet open, I want you to pull up the link that looks like this, Essential Guiding Principles for Equitable Whole Child Design. So here, I want you to actually open that, or you can type that in, where it will take you to the design principles for schools. So if you remember back to last time, let me just show you where we were last time. From the Science of Learning and Development Alliance. Remember last time we spent a lot of time reading research papers. Here they are, still here. Woo. And I mean, we were getting deep into epigenetics, biological science. I mean, there's a lot going on. But the Science of Learning and Development Alliance realized that, you know, all of that really deep science is a lot to process. And so they have done a job, and here you remember all of the kind of core scientific findings that live out there that we were working from around how learning actually works. And we looked at that paper. But today we're into this essential guiding principles for equitable whole child design. And we're going to spend a lot of time with this little circle here to kick off our sprint. This then takes you, so you can see there's a K-12 playbook. There's also a community-based settings playbook. Some of you might be in settings that are all the other parts of childhood that are not school, where learning happens in community. So think YMCA, think 4-H, think all of those things. So that is the community-based settings playbook. Funny enough, the department that I'm chair of is launching a brand new undergraduate degree in all of those other spaces. And so I was sort of excited to see those two things set right next to each other. But we're going to spend our time this morning in that K-12 playbook, which takes you over to that link that I asked you to open, Design Principles for Schools. Okay. Now, this particular document works a little bit as a book itself. So I need to scroll over just a bit. So you see the table of contents that lives over here. So that table of contents sort of pops open, and then you can navigate through this design playbook. And we're going to spend some time sort of checking out those component parts, but I want that loaded on your sites as well, because like there could be particular parts that you're really into and like you want to fully read the research on that. And you don't want to, you know, work on the thing we're at. That's fine. I mean, it is completely acceptable. So as you get into this work, some of it kicks off with sort of like, why would we do this work? And then one of the things I want to bring to the front is they have distilled all of the science of learning into a set of goals for young people, right? Goals for young people. And so there are cognitive development goals, there are academic development goals, social emotional goals, identity development goals. I'm going to pop back in slides just to make that a bit bigger. So there's an example of identity development goals. What I find particularly useful about this work that lives at the very opening of this entire playbook and these goals for young people are that a lot of us have been busy in the deeper learning world doing portraits of a graduate. Yep, that's actually, I was trying to show one. I keep some in my office. So here, I'll stop share for just a second and just show you, like, see portraits of graduates, like lots of districts producing things like this. I just keep some hanging around here. So like lots of your districts have been actively busy in that work. And I think that does a good job of speaking to the sort of broad outcomes that we want kids to have in terms of like being great problem solvers and communicators. And this one was effective communicators, compassionate citizens, productive collaborators. So like we're used to seeing a lot of that. What I love about this goals for young people part of the work, though, is that it's really deeply educator focused. Like this internally, like these portraits of a graduate are amazing documents externally to your community. But let's say that you were to have a portrait of a graduate internally, and you're like have like one internally facing just to your team. I would love to make one like this, which speaks to all of the different things that are happening in a child's life as they are growing and maturing through your school system. So I just found that to be a particularly useful tool that I wanted to share early. And remember, everything we are doing is deeply linked to the science of learning. And so like it's 100% covered in terms of like why these are the right goals for young people. What do you think? See how that might be useful, or is like totally off the rails? Okay, let's get back into the areas that take us more towards research then. Okay, so what we are going to do is actually, here's the biggest size. They boil down the playbook into 5 component parts. So we're going to take a moment and look at each of these different component parts and really what's the relationship to the real world in these component parts, in terms of like what the practices are that we might do in school, right? So we're going to start with positive developmental relationships, safety and belonging, and then we're going to work our way around it here for the next few minutes. So starting then with positive developmental relationships, what Edutopia teamed up with the Science of Learning Alliance to put out sort of component part videos for each of these. And so this is the component part video around relationships.
Justin, real quick before you start, did you remember to click that button? The share device audio?
Yeah, Ben,
okay, cool. Yeah, all right.
He
all right,
worries about me, team.
Yes.
I'm a learner.
Yeah.
All right.
Offer yesterday. You okay? I'm tired. So what's going on?
Strong relationships are central to the learning process. What the science of learning and development tells us is that we need to create learning environments which allow for strong long-term relationships for children to become attached to school and to the adults and other children in it.
When children have experiences of closeness and consistency and trust, oxytocin is released. Oxytocin has many, many positive effects on the development of the brain. So when we think about a relationship, we're not just talking about being nice to a child. We're talking about a child having an experience of attunement and trust strong enough to release the hormone oxytocin.
Good morning, Ariella. How you doing today?
The purpose of the morning greeting is to connect with them and to just make sure that I'm seeing them as humans. Like I'm making that relationship with them, making that bond.
I prioritize relationship building because getting to know them is the best part of the job.
All right, lovely.
Not so much,
I'll stop that and stop share for just a sec. So here is sort of the key finding around building positive relationships. And you can see one of the super simple practices is sort of that morning greeting practice in the early elementary context of just like knowing the kids every day and checking in with them every single day. So I'm going to show you back in a minute the sort of recommendations that the Science of Learning group made around specific practices. But before we get that, like I'm actually curious about what are some of those practices that you know about and are willing to share over in chat in sort of like a waterfall context, like different things that schools do that help build those positive relationships that we know live at the core of learning. I just throw them in over into the chat. Like, so morning greeting, super simple, easy one. What else lives there? Ah, yes. Thanks, Rachel. Advisory is definitely going to live there. Ooh, I love collaborative reflection, Laura. Thanks. Yes, so inside of this work, they reference Castle's work quite a bit as a really strong practices for welcoming and inclusion. Oh, lovely, Leanne's sharing several morning greeters, a morning message, some quiet spaces for students needing soft starts, mentor and mentee relationships. Lovely, thanks. Positive notes, home and snail mail. Yeah, community, family connections. Okay, lovely. So you all are exactly on the right track in that if we sort of pop back in to the positive relationships component part of the Science of Learning playbook, which I'll just pop open right now. So you can see from that homepage, we can just click in to positive developmental relationships, and we can see more around the that specific thing. And specifically, they're sharing examples of places that are doing it, right? So student-led conferences at Gateway Middle School. So several of you wanted examples, and we're going to continue to share examples, but there are examples embedded in this design playbook around how it's working and where it's working. And so different places to go check out. And of course, because it's all beautiful research, here is the link right down here to a further reading about that particular example location. And then, so we're still on positive developmental relationships. We won't do this for everyone, but I want to show you inside of the playbook what that then turns into. So of course, some explanation. Here is the little video clip that we just watched. What the science says about positive developmental relationships, right? We were there last time, deep in the science, but they are pulling the science out that links specifically to why relationships, positive relationships, are linked directly to learning. Okay, so you can see the big headline here are human relationships are the essential ingredient that catalyzes healthy development and learning. So they've linked up several research findings that support this. And then to the question of like theory into practice, what schools can do. And then they get here and they give you, structures. And unsurprisingly, some of the structures that you all mentioned in the chat are here in the structures that they're saying link to the science behind building positive relationships. So small schools, small learning communities, here is advisory, right? They also, last time someone mentioned around the house systems and like these efforts to try to create smaller family units inside of school. Looping as a practice that allows teachers to stay longer with particular kids. Home visits and the other outreach, those, as someone said in the chat, like these little letters home, right? That's exactly, you guys are exactly on it in terms of knowing the kinds of practices that are shown in the research to help build positive relationships. And then they unpack all that, right? So like, what does it mean to personalize those relationships with students? And then what are specific structures that help with the personalization? And of course, because it's the Science of Learning and Development Alliance, they then link out to lots of other research along the way that is giving you more background about how to do each one of these practices, right? So if you're really into advisory as the model to help build positive relationships, you can then pop open more information about advisory. You can see, like, of course, probably the gold standard in advisory is EL Education's CREW model. And so you can pop out and see more about that. Okay, so anyway, look how deep this playbook is. It's spectacularly deep. We're not going to go on each one of the 5 component parts. We're not going to go this deep, but it just keeps, we're still in positive relationships, right? So now we're going to talk about positive relationships among staff, right? And we're going to talk about building relational trust. All right, Ben, jump in.
Sorry, so like, let's come up for air for just a second, because like, I'm like with you, like I get into this, I just get so excited, right? And I just like get in and, I just want to read it all. But the thing is like, we keep talking about design, right? And so we're designing for a specific outcome. And so this outcome, right, we're looking at safety and belonging. And so wouldn't it be great if we could do all of these things, right? But we can't, right? And so we have to pick one, right? And so we can use this as a reference, as a guide to sort of help point us in the right direction, to look at what other schools are doing as examples. And like, the good news is, and also sometimes maybe the struggle is, like, we can see what other schools are doing, but it's not, what they're doing is not specifically going to work for us, because what they did is they went into a design process, and they went into they went through this design process, and then after many iterations came up with what we're now seeing, right? And so we have to engage in that process and those iterations to get to the place where we need to be. And so we have to choose one thing, and that one thing actually might not be what it is in the end. We might have to scrap it because we find out it won't work. But I think the thing that we want to sort of stress here, and Justin, disagree me if you want, is like, this is where you can go to find what you need to get started, right? And it's overwhelming, right? And we're going to share other resources that are that you can engage with in other ways too, to sort of get started. But I think what Justin's highlighting here is, it's like, as deep as you want to go, the art, the science that supports your choices and your decisions is here, right? But how we specifically make those designs, or how we build this out in our setting with our community, that's going to be unique to us. And that's where the work takes place. And that's the work that that's where we live, right? But we want to show you where to get the sort of the information that you need. Is that correct, Justin? I don't want to like derail your, yeah, okay.
Right. I mean, this is a sprint. We're going fast, right? And like, that's what it's designed to do, and give you a bunch of information quickly, and then you'll spend time unpacking it. What this is not is an academy. We're going to talk about an academy at the end of this experience, where you take a team through an intentional design and you actually do something for real, like implement one of these. But from a leadership standpoint, like I was just hearing from someone in chat, like as leaders, I think part of what we need is confidence to go down these roads, and confidence in our own ability to be able to convey to people that might question us, like, no, seriously, this is what the research says that we should do. I think that our big hope, and we're going to practice in just a minute, we're going to practice confidence building. I think that's our big hope is from this sprint, is that we just build some confidence, and then we will have a discussion about how to help teams move. And that's a different kind of a challenge. What do you think? Can I dive back in, and Ben is keeping me grounded and sane, and I'll try not to geek out as much as I did on the first.
Geek out, Justin. Your enthusiasm is infectious. We love it.
Yeah. Totally.
All right, awesome. Let me pop in then. I'm just going to give a couple other highlights. The one that I want to spend time on, maybe more than the others, is PBL, because like if you're in the deeper learning world, like there's a lot of discussion and effort around that. So that's the one I want to spend more time with. So let's just sort of get to that place. So you all have the deck. Everything that we're sharing today in the deck, by the way, is in the same deck that we used last time. It's just down lower. And it is all on the Padlet on the very far right-hand side. So if you want to go and grab this stuff, and if you want to use it in your own spaces, in your own PD spaces, that is fine with me too. Just make sure you're giving Science of Learning and Development Alliance lots of love. They're the ones that did the super duper hard work to put all this out there. So we're now into the second component part of this circle around safety and belonging. And we won't take the deep dive on safety and belonging at several places in the design playbook, though. They do some of what we saw last time from Zhao Mehta and Sarah Fine's book, like instead of this, we want that. So here's an example when it comes to safety and belonging in schools. So instead of the left-hand side, we want the right-hand side. I'll give you a second with it. I like the third one down in particular. If you're only picking one, pick the third one. We really are not doing ourselves any favors by trying to spread all these kids out into these little exclusive buckets. That's not what the research would say we should be doing. especially if we're not trying to create safety and belonging. All right, awesome. So I find those to all be really good practices, but as you try to create those sort of inclusive cultures in your own buildings, you can reference back to the science of learning, right? The science of learning says we should be building inclusive, heterogeneous classrooms where we sort of remove these legacy tracking mechanisms that live in our schools. Okay, now the next one is the one around advancing rich learning experiences. Remember last time from the video, and the big takeaway from day number 1 was the 2 things we should be hyper focused on are relationships and experiences. Okay, so we spent some time looking at those building positive relationships, and we chat waterfalled over there on building positive relationships. Now, rich learning experiences. Okay, so taking a look at sort of from this to that, pop open the chat and let's throw in again practices that you think you're doing or you see schools doing that are in line with the research here of advancing rich learning experiences. All right, and I'm going to stop so we can just see each other and see the chat. So rich learning experiences.
Yeah, exhibitions, big and small, love it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge fan.
Oh yeah, thanks Donald. Yep, connecting outside with actual community experts on real challenges. Yeah, Jean-Marie, design thinking.
Solving community problems. Yeah.
Yeah, authentic assessment. Oh yay. Yep, exactly.
Mentorship, internships. Yeah.
Yeah, and we could probably keep going. And in a minute, I've got some puzzle pieces built of a bunch of different rich learning experiences that they cite in the playbook. But this is probably traditionally what you think of as the deeper learning world. And if you're coming to the What School Could Be community, you're probably got here through one of these sort of deeper learning, rich learning experience pathways like project-based learning. So let's take a quick look at project-based learning and what the science of learning would say about PBL. So I'll go back into share.
The DNA you just extracted and put it in the middle well.
We have evidence from many studies that students who engage in authentic learning and inquiry-based learning do as well as others on standardized tests and do much better on real assessments and real tasks of critical thinking and problem solving that are going to make a bigger difference for them in the long run, in school and in life.
Today we're working on our final models, assembling the parts that you've cut out.
Yeah, that's good. And if we can't get it straight, we can just sand it a little bit.
Yeah.
So there are many aspects of what goes on in a well-designed project that deepen understanding, that open up the brain for learning, and also create connections that will allow that learning to be transferred to new situations.
Go ahead, guys.
In project-based learning, we build on the knowledge that kids bring to the table.
Ground of the play structure is not safe.
We could say to the person who made the park to fix the park.
They are extending what they know into an area of inquiry, which is motivating and exciting to them.
So what does the sanitation department do to help citizens?
It helps the environment be clean.
There you go.
When a student is deeply engaged in a project, their brain is awake and alert because they are engaged and they're interested. That engaged brain operates on connections, connecting what we know to what we are now learning, connecting what we experienced today to what we experienced yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
So Mrs. Roberts, she is going to work with all of the research.
Okay, we'll just stop there. The whole video is available in the deck, and I can put a link, sorry, in the Padlet. I should have been, so we can do that, or put a link over into the chat also. If you, because I know a lot of you are out there, you're doing trainings around PBL, you're in that world, right? And so I love this video. It's about 5 or 6 minutes, but it does link directly to scientifically, why does PBL work? I like where Linda started. The research on deeper learning and project-based learning says sort of what she said at the very beginning, which is students do no worse than other students on traditional measures. When you look at the broad range of different sort of inquiry-based models, they don't do any worse in the overall research around PBL and inquiry-based learning on traditional measures. But then on like authentic sort of portrait of a graduate measures, obviously they do much, much better. And we also then see schools that are built around inquiry and project-based learning wind up getting lots of other really interesting results, like many more kids wind up going to college out of high schools that are sort of built for deeper learning. And so I think that's where that overall picture of research stands on PBL and deeper learning, which is no worse on traditional measures and much better on sort of portrait of a graduate measures. But then, like, what I wanted this whole sprint to be about was, why does it work? Scientifically, brain-wise, why is it working? And that's what then the rest of the video spends time going into, right? One of the reasons that PBL works so well is it's built on relationships. It's much stronger relationships with teachers and peers and kids inside of a project. Yeah, makes sense. Thoughts? Like that piece of this overall playbook is the most traditional design thinking, or most traditional deeper learning part of the playbook. And so like that's the one that I'm sure lots of folks might want to chat about for a second. All right, ready for an activity then. Let's just jump to that quickly. In the deck and in the playbook, there's a lot more. I mean, a lot more awesomeness. And Ben will stop me, so I won't just geek out completely on you. Some other things that I really like is as we get further around into the development of skills, habits, and mindsets, right? We talk a lot about that in schools. We want kids to have broader skills and habits and mindsets. They reference this particular work from Turnaround USA around sort of building blocks for learning and sort of how that healthy development of a child unfolds as they develop those habits, skills, and mindsets, and sort of where we should expect to see them happening, right? So in early elementary years, we should expect to see attachment, stress management, and self-regulation beginning to kick in. And then as those building blocks are in place, then we can move forward into other building blocks like growth mindset, self-efficacy. And then as those building blocks are in place, then we can move further to other building blocks like curiosity and civic identity and self-directed learning and those kinds of things. Anyway, I love that work. It's all there, team. It's all there. There is also in the various resources that the Science of Learning Alliance put out, a planning tool, which is sort of a thing to use with teams. Inside that planning tool, they sort of break out a bunch of component parts of how to do these jobs. And then schools can sort of rate each other or rate themselves on how they're doing those pieces. And there's a self-assessment tool as well that you might find useful in your own PD worlds and working with educators that does a similar thing, and they can sort of self-assess like when it comes to rich learning experiences, like where are we at with performance assessments that apply students' knowledge and skills? Are we just getting started? Is it partially in place? Is it in place? Right. So I like that self-assessment tool as well. All right, enough.
Well, hold on real quick. Let me jump in. Sorry. I want to geek out on this self-assessment tool just real quick. Sorry. What I think is great about tools like that is that oftentimes we all think we're on the same page, but we're not actually on the same page. And so if we were to hand out that self-assessment tool to everybody on our staff and everybody took it and we came back, we wouldn't see like everybody answering exactly the same. And so that's great because actually now we understand where everybody's at. And it's a great conversation space to be in, because in order to move to that sort of desired state, we have to actually like be honest and understand our current reality. And like the work we're doing is like moving from that current reality to that desired state. But we all have to understand and be realistic about where we actually are. And so those tools, that's why I'm a huge fan of tools like that, you know, in protocols, because they actually allow us to become familiar with where everybody's at and come to an agreement on sort of how we're going to get from where we are to where we're going to go.
All right, are we ready to build our own confidence around linking the science of learning to specific deeper learning practices? Feel like we're up for the challenge. Open the Padlet up, and in the third column of the Padlet, there's an activity around confidence linking DL practices to research. I'm going to put you into breakout rooms. We're going to go into 5 breakout rooms just to get slightly smaller groups than before. And each of you, then you can see group 1 use this link, group 2 use this link, room 3 use this link, right? So what room number you are is the link I want you to go to. That is going to open a Google drawing, and it's going to have tons of puzzle pieces on it. And so you can grab a puzzle piece from the left-hand side, which is one of the various deeper learning practices that are used in the Science of Learning playbook. And so that every one of these puzzle pieces is from this playbook, right? This is not Justin just throwing in randomly like, oh, I really love. No, these are practices and then research findings emerging directly from the playbook. And what I want you in your small group to do is to pick one, practice, picking a deeper learning practice, and then linking to what are those specific research findings that would say this is a good idea. So we're just gonna like practice articulating to someone. So like, let's say that you picked advisory. And so like, okay, I really love advisory. I want to do advisory, but why are you doing advisory? Okay, great. What are the specific research findings that would say we should do advisory? Does that make sense to practice as a team? Okay, so you have to work together, pick a couple of practices that you really love and try this thing out. And you can make a copy of this thing and go play with it with other teams too, fine with me. But that's what we're gonna go do. Any questions? Move the puzzle pieces around. If you don't know Google Drawing, you can move them.
Everyone's like, no, you're in the middle of something so good.
All right, how was the little Google Drawing puzzle?
First of all, great instructional modeling. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry.
Best
I like
Zoom activity ever.
Yeah, well, like, so the #1 outcome I was hoping for out of this sprint was confidence building in leaders in being able to articulate why a specific deeper learning practice is supported by the research. So, you know, that exact little thing we just practiced there, that's the #1 thing I'm hoping that you feel more confident coming out with. And so, you know, that's hopefully something that not only you'll have confidence in, but then you can take to your teams and help them build confidence in. So feel free to share what worked and didn't.
I thought it was really interesting. In our group, we came around to this space of the interconnectedness. Rachel, maybe you want to elaborate on that a little bit because it was your thinking.
Yeah, we were, looking at, well, which other science of learnings did we want to pull from? And, as I was looking through them, I talked about how on our board, we put, portfolio defenses, rapid feedback cycles, and culturally responsive pedagogy up there. And there was so much overlap with the research that supports multiple angles of the science of learning. So that's kind of why we did our board the same way, and how effective this PD or this resource will be in our own PDs to set up.
I'm curious to hear, based off of that, Rachel, from John in Henrico, like how did that, since you have a little team around you right now there in Henrico, like how did that go with the team?
Well, we had to apologize for being a little selfish with the time, because I think our breakout group helped us plan a principal presentation for next week, and we found the research that we needed. So we jumped right in there. We also leverage a little bit of the tools of Google Drawing. One of the things I like about it, it's just so accessible. And so we started using some lines to make some connections, move some things around. And I put it in the chat that we just really liked that was not, those lines were not already drawn for us. We had to move things around and construct the constructivist web from the other day. Right there is what we did. And we built some of our own understanding with it all laid out for us. So yeah, we really enjoyed the time. We would have kept going if allowed, and maybe we'll take this activity and do it with our team again.
Yeah, you're starting to design it, what's going to work for you guys. That's awesome.
All right, mission accomplished. Mic drop. Just leave it there. So you all also wanted to share, so we have a little bit of time left. And so I feel like check on the science of learning. You guys build confidence, you feel stronger, you know where there's lots of resources to go to, right? So yay, hope that feels like mission accomplished to you. The other things that you wanted from us today, and I'm going to share a couple, and then we're going to go over to Ben to sort of take us home today.
Real quick, sorry, before we move on, Justin, Donald, great idea in the chat here. Like, how about engaging students in the design work? And so like 100% yes to that, because they are, ultimately the end user of much of what we do. Right. And so when we take a design thinking approach, you design with empathy for the needs of the user. And so, they're a central component to design when you think about designing, for your user. So thanks for bringing that up, Donald. Absolutely, 100%. And, they always come up with the best ideas because they're the ones who are actually engaging in the work that we're asking them to do every day, the learning, right? So they always come up with the most creative. They don't have any inhibitions, typically, they don't have this professional, ego or anything like that, they have to, get around. It's amazing what they come up with. So any chance you can get to bring them in to this design process, take every opportunity for sure. High Tech High, I saw Melissa Daniels came to work with a school that I was working at, and showed us this project tuning protocol. And the project tuning protocol involved, you're shaking your head, Susanna, involves students. And so it's like you take a project that you thought went really well, and then you bring in students to sort of redesign it. And it always ends up being way better because of their input. So thanks for raising that up, Donald.
Yeah, no better way to build safety and belonging and strong culture than just like include them. Lovely. Okay, so I'll look on the example front. This is going to feel like a promo. It maybe is slightly, I don't know. You deal with that however you want to deal with it. So one of the things that I was also curious about examples, a team of us, Jason and Scott, who are my co-authors on this book, Leadership for Deeper Learning. We in particular were interested in examples, right? So as opposed to Zhao and Sarah's book, In Search of Deeper Learning, where they went in search of deeper learning and largely didn't find it in their book, we specifically wanted to go see it. So we were super purposeful in our going and looking, and those are lots of pictures. And then here's a bunch of just plotted on a map of schools that we went to go visit, and you can just see a whole bunch of them over there. And these are the leaders that we spent time with, learning from, interviewing, including Casco Bay over there. We didn't even get my little video on Casco Bay. Oh, dang it. We then constructed a portrait of a deeper learning leader from all of those. And here's a couple of quotes. So this is Derek from Casco Bay. So I hope like you're seeing the science in that, right? Kids are feeling connected to adults. There's strong relationships. We're working on authentic projects and experiences, right? Derek's just describing his school, but in describing his school, you can see all of the science of learning popping behind that. This is Trace Pickering from Iowa Big. Like to the point that we made on Tuesday around Pam Cantor and how malleable kids are. Like the human brain is capable of healing and growing and strengthening. And in the right deeper learning contexts, you see that happening. Kids that feel lost are found. This is Jennifer from New Village Girls Academy. This school has girls that are teenage mothers and have lots of sort of challenges in their life. Right, these kids are learning, these young women are learning in context, and part of the context of their life is I also now have to raise my own child. And what a lot of school needs to be for them is healing. We'll skip Michelle just for time. So then here, this one from Christina from iTech Prep in Vancouver, Washington. As you think about building relationships beyond the school, into community, right? Like you need your community to learn too. And all of the science of learning also applies to them. They need relationships. They need to be able to see it. They need some powerful experiences, right? Exhibitions of learning is a powerful learning experience for your community. And I have lots of videos linked in, which we won't get to. Ben, over to you. I'm going to stop sharing, just let you share over on your side.
All right, thanks. Keep talking while I cue myself up here.
Yeah, no worries. So the book has 30 places to go check out. Over in the chat, you can even be typing in some places that you're like, oh, have you seen what this place is doing on this thing? Because a consistent question in this deeper learning world is, can I go see it and where? So every opportunity we get to share where to go see it, put it over in the chat.
Yeah, good. And we'll take just a minute for people to do that as well. But what I wanted to share is sort of how we came together, right, Justin, again, to work together again. Is like I'm working with What School Could Be this year, and we're running this academy in the spring. And so part of why I came to like become a super fan of What School Could Be is exactly sort of like what we're talking about, is because it's chock full of examples of schools doing this type of work, right? And as Justin mentioned, hopefully after, engaging with this science and this research, we start to view these things now with new eyes. And so we start to actually understand the science behind what we're seeing. So whereas before we used to see it and be like, that's amazing, I love that, we should all do this. Now we understand we should do this because, and then be able to sort of name the science behind that. But What School Could Be actually started with most likely to succeed. So Ted Dintersmith is produced this movie. And then when did this come out, Susanna?
2015.
2015, and it's been sort of snowballing since then. So they've gotten a lot of momentum behind this. And, you know, inside the What School Could Be community, it's free to join. Anybody can join it. I think it's up to almost 11,000 members now. There's people doing this type of work or trying to engage in this type of work or launching into this type of work. So I encourage you to sort of go in, check it out, sign up for it. You have different groups, and then you also have events like this one. So this sprint, the Science of Learning Sprint, was actually manufactured, I guess, was born out of this What School Could Be community. So it was one of the events. But if you're like me and you like engaging with people, this is the place to do it. So we have like this event here. We have book talks. So we invite authors to come talk about their books. We have filmmakers who come talk about the films that they make. So we watch the film and then we talk to the people who made the film. You know, we're actually engaging with people and schools doing the work. So you can actually have sort of real live face-to-face face-to-face conversations about schools doing this work. So you can ask specific questions, you know, ask for deeper, you know, sort of pull back the curtain and ask the questions that you really want to ask to gain a deeper understanding around it. All right, and I'll share a little bit more about that next. But as Justin mentioned, we want to sort of hear what, who, and where are people doing this work. So jump on the Padlet, and we have an examples column. So share any places that you know, maybe it's where you work, maybe it's where your friends work, maybe it's something you saw. Share a place that you know doing something in some way, some of the design elements that we were talking about, are doing it in a way that you think is worth recognizing or maybe we can learn from. So go ahead, pop on the Padlet. I'll jump over there and see if we have anything popping. Where is that column, Justin? Examples, what does it look like? So we can add anything's down there. So all the resources that we share next are in this space as well. So What School Could Be, we have the innovation playlist, which I'll talk about in just a sec. Mobilize your community, student-driven learning, et cetera, et cetera. So jump on here and share any places, schools, people, organizations doing the work we've been discussing. Or just come off mute.
Sorry for pointing us to the chat. Throw them in Padlet just because it preserves it better. So I'm going to copy over Grace James and iLead that are both over in the chat and put them in. And I agree that those are two really awesome locations for seeing this in action here locally in Kentucky. And like I should, because it's the Padlet, like we can go get links.
Oh yeah, Carmen says Grace James STEAM Academy, Louisville, Eminence Independent Schools. Here we go. Verdi Eco School, Bronx Green Machine, One Stone. That's what I was going to say. One Stone. I was on a What School Could Be event last week with One Stone, and they had, like to your point earlier, Donald, they had students there talking about their experiences at One Stone, and it was like, why isn't everybody doing this? The students, I mean, they kept talking about how much agency they had, how much confidence they had, how much they love learning, how much they love to be challenged. It was like absolutely amazing. So check out One Stone. It's basically a student-run school. The board is made up of students. It's amazing. Wiley Elementary, Pauling, yes, so many more. Grace James STEAM Academy. Thanks for putting that on there. Yep.
It's kind of my favorite thing in this about the community is that there are so many schools, and so the examples are abounding, and just asking the question, anybody out there doing PBL and have great examples to share, you'll get some responses. Yeah.
Tons. Yeah. And you'll actually, what I love about it is it's a place to connect with people. So you can be like, can we hop on a call so I can actually ask questions. So it's not like shouting into the universe or, you know, shouting into the wind. You're going to connect with some people. So IB International Baccalaureate. Yes. Great framework. Both my kids are in IB schools. They have been in IB schools, an inquiry-based approach to education. It's a great framework. Love it. So glad people put in there. ICQS. I don't know if I said that correctly. I Lead Academy, Life Ready Learning Exhibition. These are amazing. Okay, good.
From
All right.
Henrico, the Henrico team. Hey, see you guys. I'm going to check that video out. I want to see what you all are up to.
Awesome. All right, good. All right, well, yeah, keep adding those on there. We want to sort of get into this next little bit of last little bit of what we're going to be doing today. So we're actually going to talk about leading change. So what are we going to do? I think that's why everybody's here. They want to do something. They want something to change. So how do we actually go about it? So we've talked about tons of resources, tons of research, but now we have to sort of translate that into actionable steps within our actionable and achievable steps within our setting. All right. So how will you begin your journey? So what is your pathway to deeper learning? And so we're going to suggest just 4 sort of first steps. And we're not prescribing this is the pathway to deeper learning. We're not saying like these are the steps you have to follow, because sometimes you know what works for one person might not work for another. But we want to actually just sort of point you in 4 ways that you might get started depending on how you work. So one is super easy. Sign up for What School Could Be. All right. Just click join the community. You know, go in, fill in your information. It's as easy as that. I put it on the Padlet, but I just want to show everybody why I think that's amazing. So what they have innovation playlists. And these things are sort of similar to what we shared earlier with the research, but it's done in a different format. Okay. So like, let's say you check out your Mobilize your community playlist, right? It has sort of an overview, and it has specific approaches or specific practices you can engage in. So if you want to shadow a student, you click on shadow a student, and what it's going to do is going to load you into the resources you're going to need and actions you can take to actually do that. All right. So it'll say, try it, discuss it. It'll give you resources to use. It'll point you towards any schools that are doing it, etc. You can learn more about it. It's just very low friction, easy access to amazing schools that are doing this. So there's Mobilize Your Community, there's student-driven learning, you know, Curiosity Time, a lot of the things that we were talking about, Genius Time, students managing their learning. Click into that. You're going to get, what I really like about it is all the video resources, but then also additional resources and links to schools that are doing it. Real world challenges, evidence of deeper learning, etc. Caring and connected communities. So a lot, there's so much here, and it's so accessible and it's so good. So I highly recommend checking it out. And what's great about videos is you can actually watch them with other people rather than, you know, sometimes you have to read and then talk about it, which is fine, but check it out for sure. All right. The next one is for those of you who are sort of into getting super granular. We've created sort of this Science of Learning Next Steps working document. And so this is actually sort of like a draft. So you probably already noticed some typos that are popping out as I pulled it up. But this is just a way for people
Ben's
to
been
sort of
working on this for hours today, team. So
yeah.
Just throwing it out there, that happened.
Yeah.
He's put this together for you all. So give some love. No worries on the typos. It's a great thing to use.
Yeah. Yeah. So so this is sort of how I approach things, right? Because I can get overwhelmed when it's so big and there's so much. I want to get super specific. What am I actually going to do? So we have a belief, right? We have a belief around maybe student agency or, you know, some type of learning, but beliefs are supported by behaviors. So what are the behaviors that we are going to engage in that express our belief? Okay. So let's think about this. What are the specific, what one specific element of deeper learning are you going to design for? All right. So that around with that, you're going to create a how might we statement, which is just a one sentence statement that seeks to clarify a problem statement in the form of a positive opportunity. For example, I was working with a school last week that wanted to increase collaboration through more group work. They traditionally at the school didn't do group work. So very simple, how might we statement, how might we encourage more group work within classrooms? All right. So then we define what it looks like. So how do we know if we're being successful in this, right? So you just write it down. So walking through these things actually will force you to clarify what it is you're trying to achieve, as well as get everybody sort of on board. Then we get really specific. So we're going to talk about who's the team that we're building to actually do this. And we know that diverse teams are the strongest teams. What are the unique strengths that we're bringing in? Are all groups represented? Do we have students? Do we have parents? Do we have teachers? Do we need them, right? Do we even need a team? Can I do this on my own? What resources or which resources might help you support your work? What's the resource? How might this be useful to yourself and your community? Evidence of and feedback. What evidence might we gather that will allow us to understand that we are making progress towards our goal? How might we gather this evidence? And then how might we use this evidence to inform design enhancements or make decisions? All right. And then, it goes on. So these aren't, it's not a checklist. It's not something you have to march through in any specific order. It's there to stimulate thinking, to provocate your thinking, and to try and get people focused in on actually making some concrete steps. So use it or lose it. The next thing I wanted to share was Project Zero's thinking routines toolbox. And I'm a super fan of thinking routines. I use them all the time. Show of hands, if anybody uses Project Zero's thinking routines? Yes, Susanna, love it. Anything you want to say on it before I dive in and geek out on it? Okay, good. So these are great. We used one yesterday. So there's a core thinking routine sort of toolbox, and we have circle of viewpoints, claim support question, compass points. So what thinking routines do is they actually structure a group of people's thinking around something specific, and actually surfaces a lot of assumptions and clarifies helps you clarify your own thinking. So you want to dig deeper into ideas. Here's a list of specific routines aimed at helping you and your group dig deeper into specific ideas. All right. And they have awesome names like Beauty and Truth, Options, Diamond, Step Inside, Take a Stand, Think, Feel, Care, this sorts of things, right? Are you introducing or exploring ideas, right? These are great to use at the beginning of meetings when you're looking at designing things, all right? 3, 2, 1 bridge, talk, compass points, see, think, wonder, that's a very popular one. Do you want to investigate objects and systems, right? Creative hunt. This one I really love. I sort of wanted to point out as well. So parts, people, interactions, right? So when you're wanting to explore complexity, like we're talking about really complex systems here, right? So identify a system and ask, what are the parts of the system? Who are the people connected to the system? And how do the people in the system interact with each other and the parts of the system? And inside each of these will tell you actually how to launch it, when to use it, and how to be successful. Super easy, but super powerful. So again, we have perspective taking, considering controversies, dilemmas, and perspectives. So I'm hoping you're seeing like, oh, I know when I can use some of these with my team or my staff or something. It's just a great way to sort of structure productive conversations, generating possibilities and analogies, synthesizing and organizing ideas. So when you want to achieve these things, jump into here, find a routine, use it with your team. Super useful. All right. And then lastly, as Justin mentioned, I'm a super fan of this document. So this design principle for schools. If you haven't been able to tell, I'm a super fan of design, because if we want an outcome, if we want something to change, we want to achieve something, we have to design for it. And so we have to understand where we're going, what we're trying to achieve. All right. And so we have to look at what are the behaviors, the systems, the structures we put in place. What are the things we're going to do to achieve that outcome? And so this design principle for school sort of playbook, it has it all. It has what you need. It's just that it is not in a format that everybody can engage with. But regardless of which path you choose, I recommend bookmarking this and visiting it often. All right, because like we keep saying, everything we're actually trying to do should and is supported by this research. So the more we can sort of familiarize ourselves with this, the stronger our stance becomes, and actually the better we're able to articulate what we do. But like Justin mentioned, just jump into a specific area. Like if you want to learn a little bit about rich learning experiences, knowledge development, dive into, these different sections. There's videos, there's links. Tables are amazing. I love tables. There's little vignettes of schools, et cetera, et cetera. So that was a lot, and I feel like I was spamming you all with different stuff as well. So just try and think of which activity or which approach will serve you best, right? And maybe it's a blend, maybe it's one for this one for that one. But just understand there's different ways to approach this and different tools that are at your disposal.
All right. Very, very last pitch from me then. Part of the reason we're doing these sprints, and first off, I love feedback about the sprint format and love to keep the conversation going on Twitter. I have a tweet. I'm gonna just go ahead and hit send right now out on it because I've, just loved hanging out with all of you. And so I love feedback on this particular format. Beginning in January, though, we are going to sort of take this format a step further, in that we are going to, last year with What School Could Be and UK Way and UK Next Gen, we ran the What School Could Be Academy. And we're going to run that again this year. But we're making some changes because in Kentucky, we've run the Academy for 12 years and lots of folks in the room have been a part of it. Carmen in the room helped to lead it over time. Laura helps lead it now. So that works really well for us in Kentucky, but as we went global, we wanted to make some changes. But in the Academy, we try to network leaders, focus on transformation, create cultural change toward innovation, give lots of examples of student-centered deeper learning models. Each team then identifies an entry point, whatever that entry point is, one of those things on the left-hand column in our puzzle. You design a specific project, you implement it with fidelity. And then you got to share it out. So over the course of the spring and into this summer, so this is something sort of a January to June kind of timeline, we'll run the Academy format ending in a micro-credential in leadership for deeper learning. And you can sort of see some of the component parts down there. Ben is going to be sort of your crew chief leader of the whole thing, right? So like that sort of teammate, and part of his role as What School Could Be fellow is to sort of serve as a direct point of contact for the teams. We're going to break it into 3 sort of smaller sprint/course formats though. So we're going to look at learning structures for deeper learning over 4 meetings over the course of about 2 to 3 weeks. Then we'll take a little breather. Then we will run the next sort of sprint/course on assessing deeper learning, 4 meetings over the course of 2 to 3 weeks, take a little breather, and then come around 4 meetings for structures and systems for deeper learning, where over the course of 4 meetings, we sort of run fast, move quick through a sprint and a course, and sort of get to the end product of that. So that is the shape of the What School Could Be Academy this upcoming year. As you can see, this one does have a price. Down in there, I shared one of the outcomes. So at the end of this entire thing, the very last day, the teams need to share what they've been working on. So this is last year, Virginia Beach, Salem High School, and you can see the team members and like what they were working on during their Academy experience. So we're going to keep that. We want you doing real things. We're just going to change the format a little bit of the Academy this upcoming year. So more details will be coming out soon. We're trying to do a whole lot at one time, and I'm trying to link it to academic credit, and that part is like not going as smoothly as I hoped it would go right now. But at the price point, I mean, it'll be a great PD for a school team, right? And so if that's something that is of interest, we'll continue to circulate, and then everyone that participated in the sprint, I'll circle back around when we put out those details and a registration link for a school team. So, but that's to the point of like, how do you actually lead it, right? How do you actually do it? Like, I love the sprint, love hanging out with you this week, but we can only do so much in 2 days. And so over the course of months, then in these little sprint formats, we think we can sort of still achieve a lot, but do it in more of these easily accessible manners. Team, it's been awesome for me. What are our closing thoughts?
I'm just thinking about the room and everybody who's here, and there are a lot of powerhouses in terms of connections to communities, and you are leading the leaders and the educators in your communities. And so I'm really excited about everybody here sharing some of these great findings and all these resources with everybody. I know I'm going to be doing that, so it's great. Thank you.
I just really appreciate digging deeper into the science of learning, because right now in Minnesota, it is really deep into the science of reading, which I agree needs to be there, but I think we're forgetting the other pieces of that whole child, of that science of learning. So I just appreciate all of the resources and things that now I can take back to my rural school district. So thank you.
Yeah, I love that point, Janelle. Like, we spend so much time on the science of one or two very specific things, reading and computation, and not much beyond. And so, you know, there's way more going on in childhood and brain development. And so keeping all that in mind is good stuff.
Yeah, I think, you know, we use that term whole child development a lot, and people think it means like reading, writing, and math or something. That's the whole child, you know, but then this whole child development, if, you know, you go back to that wheel, you know, all of those components make up development, you know, and I think Justin and I have had this discussion about, like, development is so much more than just learning. Learning feeds development, but, you know, this, like, the relationships and experience and learning, like, all of that contributes to development. And so when we talk about the whole child, we actually talk about development of the whole child, and learning is a component of that, right? All right, well, let's hear from you. Like, if your exit ticket is saying something before you leave. So, you know, it could be positive, it could be negative. I like this, I didn't like this.
They've been chatting away.
I want to know what you're thinking.
Over there.
Yeah, I know, but still, just come off mute, say something. You know, give you know, a teammate a shout out, give someone you talked to today a shout out, you know, anything. Yep.
Thanks,
hey, Benjamin,
for
this
holding.
is John.
Oh, sorry, good.
Sorry, CJ, we'll get you. I just wanted to say our team has had a great time. It's grown. People are walking by and sitting down. It may be because of the peach cobbler breakfast cake we had, but we've had a great time. So thank you for including us.
Yeah, lovely.
Go ahead,
Thank
CJ.
you all. Yep, have a great school day.
Thanks, John. Yeah, I just want to say thank you as well. And I feel like over the past couple of years, I've started to learn a little bit more about kind of some of this, you know, holistic kind of development and learning, but this has really kind of catalyzed deeper thinking on my part. So I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, CJ. CJ is in Beijing. So for him, like, get to bed. What are you doing?
I appreciate just being a little bit reinvigorated, you know, after a couple of years of everybody kind of pausing on things that were very innovative, being able to connect with a group that is just re-inspiring me to get back out there and learn more and to deepen my leadership for deeper learning is exciting. So thank you.
This is so powerful. I'm still trying to process everything that I just took in, because there are so many things that I can do with all these pieces right now. So administratively in my mind, it helped me focus on what I can roll out to staff, but not only what I can roll out. So, right, I want to concentrate on brain research, but how I'm going to start to roll it out. Because I did something and it was just a quick thing on brain research, but I didn't have the research to support. I didn't have the substance that Ben just put together also. So for me, this just tied it all together. And talking it out with my teammates who were awesome helped also. So the structure worked really well for me. So thank you for this time and for all of you being here today.
And consider us a resource going forward. Reach out to us anytime. Absolutely.